Welcome to this seminar on Canadian CPA. And I hope, you're all safe in this virus. And thanks for joining. I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Chris Sharma. I'm the owner of Orbit Institutes. Now we have a partnership with an organization, a teaching institute under the name of PASS in Canada, and it is run by Michael Levy and Ira Velish. They're both certified public accountants in Canada, and they'll take over the presentation. So Orbit Institutes, which was set up in India almost 22 years ago, has locations in 12 cities, and we do a lot of corporates. So we basically provide review courses for professional courses, and Canadian CPA is one of them. So I'd like to thank all of you for joining, and thanks, Michael, and thanks, Ira. I'm going to pass the mic, and Michael Levy will take over the presentation from here. Michael?
Thank you very much, Christian. I'm just going to share my screen now, and then I'll begin the presentation. Hopefully everybody can see my screen now. Thank you very much, Christian, for having us do this presentation. We're really, both Ira and myself, we're very happy to be here today. And what we'd like to do today is talk to you about the process for achieving the Canadian CPA and how PASS can help you achieve that. As Christian pointed out, we do this course in conjunction with Orbit Institute's Christian's company. As you can see, obtaining your CPA is something that people can succeed at. As you can see, a number of attributes are required to succeed: patience, persistence, discipline, and quite honestly, hard work. But with hard work and dedication, it very much is a doable exam. Let me begin by explaining what we'd like to cover. Let's just go over the agenda. We're going to start with the CPA program and the CP. So we'll explain exactly how the program works, and we'll talk about the CP, which is the exam that's written across Canada in order to achieve the CPA. We'll talk a little bit about the two main components that are critical for success on the CP, and that is case writing and technical skills. We'll then talk about the PASS CP program, which was developed specifically for Indian and other international students, but with the main focus being Indian students. At PASS, we're very, very familiar with the situation in India because we've been teaching Indian students close to 10 years now. So that's why we determined a number of years ago that a very specific program is necessary to make sure that Indian students get through the CPA. We also will go over our schedules. We'll show you just a few testimonials by other Indian students who've taken the course and have succeeded. We'll talk very briefly about registration with PASS as well as registration with a CPA Provincial Institute. In order to write the exam, you have to register with a CPA Provincial Institute. We'll also talk about coming to Canada in light of COVID. We figure that COVID is a white elephant here. It's on everybody's mind. So rather than ignore it, we'll deal with it head on and give you what we think is some good practical advice in terms of achieving your CPA in Canada in light of COVID. Okay, and then we'll just give you some basic contact information. So what I'm going to start with right now is a short description of the CPA program and the CP. The way that it works is as follows. If you're a regular student in Canada, you need to take 4 technical modules, and then you have to take something called Capstone 1 and Capstone 2 before you can even write the final exam called the CP. CP stands for Common Final Exam. We'll talk more in detail about Capstone 1 and 2 in just a few minutes, but for now, Capstone 1 involves working with a group on a large business case. So it's a big group presentation that you work on. It's a written presentation as well as an oral presentation. Capstone 2 involves writing past CP cases and having them professionally marked. Capstone 2 is supposed to help people get through the CP by giving them an opportunity to write past exams and have them professionally marked. Now, the nice thing about being an Indian CA is that as an Indian CA, you don't have to take the technical modules, nor do you have to do Capstone 1 or 2. You can go directly to the CP. The 2021 CP will be May 26th to 28th and September 13th to 15th. There are actually 2 sittings for the CP. Some people write in May, some people write in September. The dates for the 022 CFE have not yet been set, but we expect that the dates will be fairly similar. Every year, they might be off by a few days, but they're very similar each year. Pretty shortly, we'll know the 2022 dates. Because of COVID, things are a little bit delayed this year, but I would suspect that pretty shortly, we'll know the dates for 022. So at the end of the day, a typical Canadian student goes through these technical modules, capstone 1 and 2, and then writes the CP. As an Indian CA, you don't have to worry about the technical modules or capstone 1 and 2. Now, let me give you a little bit of an overview of the CP itself, of the exam itself. The first and most important thing you need to know is that the CP is a case-based exam. So it's much unlike the exam in India. We're not talking about short questions or little cases. We're talking about big cases. And that is something that makes it very, very different from the Indian exam. The cases are far, far larger, and they deal with multiple issues. In other words, there's no such a thing as a case that only deals with accounting or only deals with audit. The cases deal with multiple competencies, and within each competency, there can be multiple issues. Now, the time for the cases can range from as short as 70 minutes, which isn't that short if you haven't done cases before, but that would be the shortest we typically see on a CP, to as long as 5 hours. On a short case, you may need to read 5 or 6 pages and then write up the case. On a long case, you may have to read, as many as 15 to 20 pages. On that 5-hour case, you could be reading 15 to 20 pages. The cases typically have about a 1-page main body. So usually there's a main body that describes what you need to do and that has most of the things you're required to do. And that usually is followed by numerous exhibits or numerous appendices. And again, if in a 5-hour case, you would obviously have more and longer appendices than on a 70-minute case. Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, this is an example of the main page, what I'm talking about over here, the main body of an 80-minute case. So this would just be the main body, and then followed by this, you would have numerous appendices. I just wanted to give you a taste of what a case looks like in Canada. Now, the CP is actually a 3-day-long case. On day 1, you're going to write one large 4-hour case, and we refer to that case as a comp. The day 1 comp is based on capstone 1. I mentioned a few minutes ago that capstone 1 is a module in which you work on a big business case as a group, and then you make a written and an oral presentation. In that case, you're going to be working on a fictional company, and you'll be dealing with high-level business issues. Come the day 1 of the CFE, you're going to be writing a case based on that same fictional company that is now maybe a few years later, and they're now facing new operational and strategic issues. So keep in mind that day 1 of the CFE is not very technical. It's meant to deal with your high-level business skills, and it's based on the capstone 1 module. Later on, we'll talk about how PASS takes into account that most Indian students will not have attended the capstone 1 module. We will talk about that. Day number 2 is one large 5-hour case, which is referred to as the roll comp. You'll see in a few minutes that the reason we call it the roll comp is that not everybody plays the same role. And we'll explain that in more detail in just a couple of minutes. Day 3, you'll be writing 3 shorter cases. Each case will be between 70 and 90 minutes, but it has to add up to 4 hours. It has to add up to 240 minutes. So they could give you 3 cases that are 80 minutes, one that's 70, one that's 90. At the end of the day, it all has to add up to 4 hours, 240 minutes. These shorter cases we refer to as multi-cases. Another term that's often used in the literature that's put out by CPA Canada is day 3 cases, because these short cases only crop up on day 3. As we mentioned before, all cases test more than one competency. So by competency, we mean subject. So as I said earlier, you're not going to have a case that's purely accounting. You're not going to have a case that's purely audit or management accounting. All cases test more than one competency. So part of the skill on this exam is the ability to deal with multiple competencies within one case. These are the 6 competencies that are examinable on the CP. You've got audit and assurance, financial reporting, management accounting, finance, taxation, and strategy and governance. Let's talk now in a little bit more detail about day 1 of the CP. So I mentioned before that day one of the CP is called the comp, and it's 4 hours. And it's based on the case used in Capstone 1. You're dealing with the same fictional company, but it might be 5 or 10 years later, and the company is now facing different issues than you had to deal with during the Capstone 1 module. It's marked separately from day 2 and 3, and you simply get a pass or a fail. The nice thing about it being marked separately is that if you pass day 1, but you don't pass day 2 and 3, you don't have to do day 1 again, and vice versa. So at the end of the day, if you failed Capstone 1, but you passed day 2 and 3, then you wouldn't have to write day 2 or 3 again. So whichever one you fail, you don't have to write the other one. So that actually is a big advantage, that they're marked separately. And again, very non-technical. It's days 2 and 3 where they try to test the technical. Here, they're testing things like strategy and governance, SWOT analysis. At the end of the day, high-level business analysis. On day 2 of the CP, that's a very challenging day. It's somewhat of an endurance test because you're writing an extremely long case. Even for Canadian students who are accustomed to writing cases, a 5-hour case is a big challenge. It's called the roll comp, and the way it works is as follows. The case will have financial accounting and management accounting. So it'll have either financial accounting or management accounting or both. And everybody writing the exam throughout the country will have to address the financial accounting and or management accounting that arises in the case. But then students will also have to choose one of 4 roles before the CP. A couple of months before the CP, they'll have to choose one of 4 roles. The 4 roles from which they'll have to choose are audit, tax, performance management, or finance. So we'll have to choose one of these 4 roles. So the way it's going to work is as follows. Everybody is going to have to deal with any of the requireds that deal with financial accounting and or management accounting. But all the other requireds that you will need to deal with will relate to your role. So say, for example, I chose the audit role, or what they call the assurance role. If I chose the assurance role, let's assume there was financial accounting and management accounting on the exam. I will have to deal with financial accounting and management accounting, and all the rest of the requireds I deal with will be assurance related. If the person next to me chose tax, she'll have to deal with the same financial accounting and management accounting issues that I'm dealing with, but all the rest of the requirements that she'll have to deal with are going to relate to tax. So when you're dealing with the roll comp, the maximum number of competencies you'll ever have to deal with is 3. Because if they test accounting and management, if they test financial and management accounting, then you'll have 3 competencies: financial accounting, management accounting, and audit, tax, performance management, or finance, whichever role you chose. If all they tested was financial accounting or management accounting, they didn't test both, then you'll only have to deal with 2 competencies: financial or management accounting plus the role you chose: audit, tax, performance management, or finance. Day 3 is quite different from day 2. Not only is it much shorter, 70 to 90 minutes, but it's much broader in terms of what it tests. On day 3, it's not at all unusual to be dealing with 4 or 5 different competencies. So I went through the competencies before. It's not at all unusual to be dealing with literally 4 or 5 of these competencies in one case. And unlike the case of day 2, on day 3, you don't choose a role. Everybody writes exactly the same cases. So at the end of the day, day 2, if I chose audit, I need to have extra knowledge in audit beyond what somebody who didn't choose audit needs to know. On day 2, they tend to test your role at quite a high level. On day 3, they don't test anything at that high a level because everybody has to deal with exactly the same requirements. So whether I chose audit on day 2, or I chose tax on day 2, I'm going to be writing the exact same case. Now, day 2 and 3 are marked together. As we said before, if unsuccessful, you'd have to repeat day 2 and 3, but if you passed day 1, you wouldn't have to repeat day 1. So again, day 1 is dealt with separately from day 2 and 3. So if you pass one segment, you don't have to take that segment again. So it's not all or nothing. Here are some key facts about the CP. Everyone in Canada writes the same exam. So the nice thing about it being a uniform exam is that, let's say you're moving to Canada, or let's say somebody lives in Canada already. Doesn't matter. You move into Canada or you live in Canada already. And let's say you write in Ontario, because either you're moving to Ontario or you already live in Ontario. And then you decide in a year from now, you know what? I don't like the weather in Ontario. It's too cold. I want to move out to Vancouver. You don't have to take the exam again because it's the same exam across Canada. You simply move to Vancouver and you continue practicing there. You have 3 chances to pass the exam. And again, that should be more than enough. Ira and I have really, we've been at this game now for, a lot of years, for over 25 years. We really haven't met very many people who failed 3 times. So it's highly, highly, highly unusual. So I wouldn't worry about that. The exam is not written on paper. It's written on computer using Word and Excel. The way that you would typically submit your exam is you would do the qualitative portion of the exam using Word, and you would do the quants using Excel. The exam itself, the exam questions themselves, the cases, are in paper form. The exam is actually open book insofar as you have an electronic copy of the handbook and the Tax Act on your computer. So you have access to a lot of the information that you need. As I mentioned before, it doesn't matter in which Canadian province you write the exam. Once you write the exam in one province, you can practice throughout Canada, and there's nothing involved in doing that. Does anybody have any questions on the basic process for obtaining the CPA and on the CP? Okay, are you sure? Okay, if nobody has any questions, we'll now talk about the importance of case writing and technical. I cannot overstate the importance of case writing on this exam. The bottom line is this is 100% case-based exam. So your ability to write cases effectively is going to be a critical success factor for passing this exam. Is it challenging to learn how to write cases when you haven't done them before? Yes. Is it something you can learn? Without doubt. Everybody is capable of learning how to write cases. At the beginning, it's a real struggle. At the beginning, everybody bombs their case writing. Everybody has trouble with it. The key thing is not to give up, because usually if you practice enough, you can get very good at it. We have Indian students who by the time we get to the CP are far better than some of our Canadian students, because just through sheer effort and practice, they really master this skill. The earlier you start writing cases, the better. You'll see later on when Ira takes over the presentation that we've developed a program for Indian students that starts many, many months before the CP, recognizing that Indian students need to start early because they don't have that foundation in case writing that Canadians have, having studied in Canada. Some people will start as much as a year in advance, and at the end of the day, that's not too much time because it takes a long time to master the case writing. And keep in mind that most people are working while they're studying. This is not an exam that's designed for people who are studying full time. Okay, so at the end of the day, you'd be writing your practice cases, you'd be studying your technical while you're working. It's very important to recognize that. Also, it's important to recognize that the practice case writing goes hand in hand with the technical. It's not the sort of exam where you sit there and spend 3 months studying your technical and then say, now I know my technical, I'm ready to write cases. The two are taking place in tandem. When it comes to the technical side of the CP, the 2 biggest areas that are examinable on this exam are financial accounting and management accounting. Now, for financial accounting, you'll note that I indicated here ASPE and IFRS. Everybody, I think, knows what IFRS is. IFRS are the international standards that many of you are already familiar with. ASPE are accounting standards developed in Canada for private enterprises. So most private enterprises will use ASPE. ASPE is a new gap that you will not have been exposed to before, but again, we will teach you ASPE. In many respects, it's similar to IFRS, but there are definitely differences, and we'll teach you what those differences are. A basic concept behind ASPE is it's meant to be a simpler form of accounting than IFRS. So these are the 2 biggest areas tested on the exams, and these 2 areas should obviously be a major part of your focus. Now, what about tax? Some Indian students, obviously feel a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but they're a little scared when it comes to tax because they say, I've never studied Canadian tax. The Canadian tax code is very different than in India. I won't tell you otherwise. But the good news is that unless you choose tax as your role on the day two comp, which virtually no Indian students do, I don't know, maybe one or two have done so in all the years we've been teaching Indian students. Unless you do that, you don't need to know tax at that high a level. Because if you don't choose tax as your elective, as your role on day two, you just need to know it at a very, you could say mediocre, at a very basic level. You need to know the basics of compliance. Any sort of complex tax planning is only generally tested on day two. So if you don't choose it as your role, you don't have to worry about that. You do have to be familiar with things like computing taxable income, knowing what's deductible and what isn't. We'll give you material to teach you what you need to know. When it comes to audit, by that we mean assurance, finance, and governance. When it comes to these three areas, most of the technical you need to know, you're going to be able to pick up from the cases. When it comes to strategy and governance, I would say that virtually 100% of what you need to know, you can pick up from the cases because it's really just common sense. Strategy and governance tends to come up in cases where you're playing a business role and you have to give just good business advice. So that, of course, is business acumen and common sense. Finance, there is a little bit of technical, and we will give you technical material that you can spend some time on. But at the end of the day, finance tends to be very numerical. And a large part of finance will be just practicing cases and getting those numbers down pat, because the amount of technical knowledge required for finance, assuming you don't choose it as your role, is really not very great. If you choose it as your role on day two, then yes, there is more technical to learn. But again, if you don't choose it as your role on day two and you're just dealing with it on day three, the finance is very basic, a lot of number crunching, and practice will help. When it comes to audit or assurance, a lot of it is going to be very similar to India, because keep in mind, you have things like audit planning, procedures, weaknesses, control weaknesses. That's not going to be very different in Canada versus India. There will be some technical you'll need to learn because there are a few sections that I'm sure are different. We have all sorts of reporting areas that I'm sure are different than in India. And for that, you'd have to do some technical studying. But the amount of pure technical and audit isn't huge compared with, for example, financial accounting, where there's a lot more technical to know. Before I turn over the mic to Ira, does anybody have any questions on case writing versus technical on this exam?
I have one question, Michael, if that is okay.
By all means.
You said that we need to opt one role out of four roles, right? The finance, audit, or the other two. So what happens if I if I chose audit first, and then I thought that finance is something which I think I am better at, and I need to change that subject that I have opted. So how do I communicate that to the CPA authority?
Yeah, you would just have to let CPA Canada know. The nice thing about this is that you can change your mind, and then you would just simply have to notify CPA Canada. You would do it through your provincial institute. So whichever provincial institute you're registered with, you would notify them that you want to change your role. Okay.
Oh, okay.
But to be honest with you, usually this is not always. Sometimes people do change their role, but most of the time, remember, you're only choosing your role typically about 2 months before the CP. And then in that period, you're starting to practice writing cases for your own role. So it would be pretty unusual, unless something really went wrong. Not too many students that I'm aware of will 2 weeks before the CP decide to choose another role. Because remember, if you decide to choose another role right before the CP, you then have to practice that role and you're not going to have enough time. So usually by the time people choose their role, because it's pretty late in the process already, most people stick with it. But if for some reason things are not going well and you want to change your role, you would just have to notify your provincial institute.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
You're welcome. So Ira, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and then you can share your screen and begin. I've stopped sharing my screen.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Hi, everyone. It's Ira here. I'm Michael's partner. I'm going to continue on in the presentation. And as Michael said, if you have any questions or anything as I'm going through this, please just stop me. Okay, I'll start with the program that we offer and just a little bit about us. So we've been doing this, I guess you can see, for many, many years. We've done teaching for all of the four firms. All the four large public accounting firms. We currently run the program for PwC across Canada. We've been doing that also for many years. And Michael, I can say this, did extremely well when he wrote the actual exam and was the actual gold medalist in the province. And overall, we're very happy with the program. The truth is we have a lot of feedback. I mean, I'll show you a few comments afterwards, but overall, we have lots of testimonials from happy students. That's just a little bit about us. By the way, both of us have a background from the CA route in Canada. I had worked for Ernst & Young for 10 years, and Michael worked for Deloitte for about 9 years. Okay, so what we did is we put together a program for international students that really included pretty much everything that we do for Canadian students. For Canadian students, we let them choose individual programs. For our international program, we kind of combined everything because we knew that individual programs would just not be sufficient for people to pass. So you can see here, we have technical training, we have case writing, we have personal counseling. This is just kind of a bird's eye view, an overall picture. Some of the program is self-study. Some of the program is self-study. You have to watch some of the videos on your own. We're not going to do everything live. Some case writing you should be doing on your own, and you should be marking your own cases. We even give you an additional 8 practice cases to do. Truthfully, I don't know how many people do those cases, because they're not handed in for marking. But if you have the time, you definitely should do them. And then a large part of the program is formal instruction. And by formal instruction, I mean we have classes, live online sessions. We run them both Canadian time in the evening, which doesn't work that great for people in India because it's about 5:30 in the morning. But we also run a lot of them IST time, like now, in the evening for Indian students. We have case writing, where you will be writing cases, submitting them for marking, and then we'll have a class where we take up the case. And we even have something called personal counseling. Personal counseling means you're sitting down, quote unquote, over Zoom probably with the marker. And the marker is going through your case after the marker marked the case. We call that a personal counseling session. And we built in about 3 of those into the program. So this is kind of a bird's eye view of really what the whole program consists of. Any questions on that so far? I have more details in a few minutes, but any questions? Okay, just to give you a little more detail, the technical study, the reason we focus live on financial accounting and management accounting is because those are the 2 biggest topics, as Michael mentioned. We have technical studying on everything. We're going to give you videos on the other 4 areas as well. We don't have time to run them all live. And the other 4 areas, maybe tax is kind of in the middle, but outside of tax, the other 3 areas for sure are ones you can kind of do on your own, watch the videos. We don't really need to run live sessions. So the live sessions will be for the management accounting and the financial accounting. Just keep in mind, for financial accounting, you will have to learn the rules for private companies, which are ASPE. You may know IFRS from India, but you will have to learn the ASPE, which is obviously different. And we cover, it's not 100% coverage, but we cover almost all of the complicated, difficult topics. I'd say all of those we cover. And even the more minor topics, we cover a lot of them, not 100%. Some of them you could just kind of learn on your own. Case writing. So basically, you are writing a lot of cases throughout the program. I don't know, the total number, including the capstone 2 cases, is somewhere around 22, 23 cases which are all being marked. So I don't know if that sounds like a lot to you or not, but trust me when I tell you that is a lot. That is a significant amount. In addition, I'd love it if you wrote some cases on your own and marked yourself. I'm not even saying this is 100% of the cases you should be writing. I'm simply saying we do provide a lot with feedback. And for not all of them, but for many of them, we have take-up sessions. That means classes where we do a live online session and we go through the case. And we have, if you look at the last bullet point on the slide, we also have these, let me get my annotation here. We also have these technique sessions where we teach you how to attack the cases successfully. These sessions are not technical. They're techniques you can use when you get into the case to help you move up the levels. I'm not getting into the levels at the moment, but the whole game here is to move up the levels and to be classified or designated as competent. That is the whole kind of marking process. Okay. The personal counseling sessions, I think I've already mentioned. The marker is going to sit down with you. We'll do that 3 times. That is sufficient, to be honest. We don't need to do that every single time. That would be way overkill. We are giving you feedback on every case. That's what we're paying markers for, to give you feedback. They write comments on every case. That's a big part of the program. But in addition to that, we'll have 3 cases where the marker will actually verbally go over with you, probably over Zoom, what you did in the case. Okay, now, as Michael mentioned, Capstone 1 and 2, you don't have to go to, it's optional. We kind of recommend you don't go. I think Michael kind of explained this. I don't have to repeat this, what Capstone 2 covers, which is really the day 1 of the exam. Capstone 2 is just practice case writing. So what we have done is we've incorporated Capstone 2 into the course. So you will be writing the Capstone 2 cases and submitting them to us for marking instead of CPA. Capstone 1, we don't duplicate. We basically, we give a couple cases, we mark a couple of practice cases, we give you a class, and we also give you a handout. So we don't want to duplicate Capstone 1. There's a lot of stuff in there you don't really need for the exam. But suffice it to say that we prepare you for all 3 days. I'm just explaining how we've integrated Capstone 1 and 2 when you're not going to be attending. The one nice thing, I don't know, the one nice thing, but a nice thing about the program is that we try very hard to be very flexible. Everything is offered online. Everything is on video. There is no maximum. You can access the videos as much as you want. Okay, available anytime. You need an internet connection. And we've incorporated not all, but many of the sessions on IST time. So we will have sessions 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the evening, okay, in India. If you're in India, it'll be 7:30 in the evening. Now, if you're not available that evening, no problem. You watch the video. But at least you'll have the opportunity to go live. So overall, I don't know if you're getting this, but the truth is, it is quite an extensive course. I mean, here you can kind of see, you know, everything that we're doing, and these are all approximations, but this is quite a lot. However, I just want to keep in mind, which I think Mike, I don't remember if Michael said this or not, but keep in mind that this is not a full-time thing. This is not a full-time thing. You can be working 100% of the time and doing this in addition to work. But that is one of the reasons we'll talk about timing in a second of when you start. Let's look at schedules. So on the website, I don't want to confuse people, but for May, we just have one schedule. If you're writing in May, let's say 2022. But if you're writing in September, we have 2 schedules. One that's called version 1 and one that's called version 2. This is not a big deal. You can choose whichever you like. The only difference is for version 1, we took 3 of the exams and we moved them earlier into the winter months, January, February, March. Those same 3 exams are given in the summer in version 2. You could do either. We recommend version 1 because we want you to write cases earlier. Even if you chose version 1 and didn't have time, no problem, you'll write the cases in version 2. We just let people flip between the two. It doesn't really matter, but we think it's much better if you write the cases early. So pretty much everybody who signs up for the course, as long as you sign up for the course, you know, I don't know, January, February, whatever, for September, you choose version 1 unless you have some major time restrictions and you really want to push those exams off, which you could do. And then you'll just be starting exam writing, case writing a little later. You'll probably be starting in April. And those specific 3 cases will be given to you in August or July. Okay, I'm just explaining the difference because if you register, you're going to see those 2 versions. So hopefully that's clear. Any questions so far?
I have one question, Ira, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned that you have some online counseling sessions and everything is online, right? So is there any, I think Orbit Institutes already have a presence in Pune, India. So is there a facility where we can actually and physically go and visit the center and attend the lectures or something like that? Because that is how, uh, yeah, I just wanted to
No.
ask that. Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is unfortunately no at this stage. There is no physical classes. There's no, to be honest, because of COVID, we're not even doing them in Canada. We have done them in the past, but we haven't for the last year. And at the moment, it would be illegal.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no. The one thing I would tell you is that 2 things. Number 1, people really like the live online. I mean, it's exactly what I'm doing now. People are asking questions. And number 2, that we're very accessible. So we really do provide a lot of support. So if you have questions and you watch a video, you email us or you email us or you call and we'll answer your question. So we really are quite available and stuff. So we have found that over the years, I'm not saying believe me, there is a value to in-class sessions. And the truth is, you know, if we could do it, we probably would do it, not for everything, but for some of them. But I will tell you that generally there was probably a preference actually from students' perspective for the online. It's just easier. They're sitting at home, they're watching the thing. It's like it is now. It's the identical lecture. But at the moment, we really don't
Yeah.
have anything in class.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. When should you start? So look, you know, early is better. Early really is better, even though it's not a full-time job. The fact is, the earlier you start, the more cases you write, the more you build up your technical, it just is very beneficial. So for May, at the moment, I'd be very scared if you started for May. Let's pretend 2021. Let's pretend there was no COVID and you have a visa. Let's pretend that wasn't even an issue. And you called me up and said, I want to write in May. My first question would be, are you working? Now, if you said to me, I'm only working part-time or I'm not working at all, okay, that's probably doable. If you said to me, I've got a normal full-time job, I'd be scared. I'd probably try and convince you to write September. Now for September, 2021 would be fine. I'll mention about the visa stuff afterwards, but now it's fine. I just want to give you a sense of how much time. Even May 22 or September 22, I know this may sound crazy, but you could start anytime. This is not so crazy. The reason it's not so crazy, even for 2022, to register now, I will tell you very honestly, the reason it's not crazy is because the formal sessions will not start yet. The formal sessions will start, let's say, sometime November for 2022 May, and maybe January for September. So what's the advantage if you start now? You know what? It sounds crazy, but there is an advantage because we will give you a technical binder. You can start studying. You can start watching the videos. You can even start practice case writing after you watch an introduction to case writing. You could start on those practice cases. You could take your time. You'll be building up your skills, and then you'll move into the classes, the formal program when we start in November or January. And you don't have to worry. Some people will say, oh, will the material be updated? It's not a big deal. It is so not a big deal because every year we update the binder and 98% of what you're studying is fine. Yes, there might be 1% or 2% that is changing. And we'll put up, what we do every year is we put up a little document on the website that you print off in January when the binder changes. The deadline for the CFE is December 31, essentially. So yeah, you're using a technical binder in 2021, but it's just not going to change very much. There'll be some changes like in tax and stuff like that, but the overwhelming majority of it won't change. So it's not an issue. So I'm not saying you have to start now for 2022, but just keep in mind, Canadian students who have more of a background in case writing take between 1 to 2 years to get through the process. That's Canadian students. Now it's true, you get to write the CFE directly, but you understand what I'm saying, that you know, this is not crazy what we're saying really for 2022. How many hours a week? I'm asked this question all the time. Sorry, is there a question? No. Okay, how many hours a week? So assuming you're working, let's even go 15 hours a week. Once again, it really does depend when you start. If you started now for 2022, I'm sure you can get away with less. Definitely you'll get away with less. Wow. But depending on when you start, if you started now for September 2021, you know, I always tell people around 15 hours. Obviously, that's going to vary as you move closer to the CFE, but it's nice. You can work full time. You're not upending your life. You're doing this while you work. Okay. Any questions? All right. Well, these are just some testimonials, basically. Again, we have so many on the website. You can go see the testimonials. We just figure we would put out a few of these from Indian students who basically all wrote for the first time and were successful. So this is one of them. This is another. Okay, the first attempt, the study in class for men's help, case writing. All right. With respect to registration and fees. So you can register online at our website. It's probably better to register on our website. The truth is you have to do this anyway because we have to give you access to all the videos. So registering on our website is really necessary. So we can get you into the system. As I keep saying, we get you started studying as soon as you register. These are the fees. So the basic fee is $27.95. This is all Canadian dollars. We give a 15% discount. So the real fee is $23.75. There is one additional fee, and that is going to be for the Capstone 2 material. It'll cost $250 to CPA Provincial, whether Ontario, BC, doesn't matter. This, by the way, is 2 months before the exam, the $250. It won't be available much before that. And people pay typically by credit card. And we also have an installment option where there's no interest. Not everybody, but definitely people use this and they pay by installments to make the fee a little easier. They pay by installment option. We can explain this if you're interested in registering. It's always good to speak to us, communicate with us first, okay, before you actually just register online. You could just register online if you want, but especially if you want the installment option, you really need to speak to us first. In total, people, this just gives you an approximate breakdown. It's somewhere around $5,000 US for the whole process. That's not to us. Okay, you can see here the fee I just showed you for our course, including the $250. But then you have other fees to the Institute, the application fee, the annual student fee, and the CFE is about $1,500. And then you have to physically be in Canada once to write the CFE. So I don't know, I'm saying approximately $1,500. I don't know exactly what your flight's going to be, where you're going to stay when you're in Canada, but we're just trying to give you an approximation from start to finish to really show you, okay, these are really approximately what the fees would be. Okay, any questions? Now, important point. Obviously, you need to register with the province that you're writing in. So let me just tell you, let's talk about timing. If you're writing a May CFE, you should register in the last half of the preceding year. So if you're writing in May, you should register sometime between July 1st and December 31. And the reason that is because if you register in the first half of the year, they will charge you an additional fee because they break up the fee between the first half and the last half, and there's no reason to register that early. So if you're writing in May, wait until the second half of 2021 to register for May of 2022. If you're writing in September, just do it at the beginning of 2022. So you don't have to pay an extra fee by registering in 2021. Register in January. You cannot register in January for May. They will say it's too late. They won't let you write. They'll say write in September. Now, this registration has nothing to do with our course. Absolutely nothing. Most of the people that start our course haven't even registered yet. It doesn't matter. It is the biggest waste of time to go, the odd time someone says this to me, and what am I going to do after the fact? But I'm speaking to them on the phone and they say, I just registered with the Institute and now I'm going to sign up for your course, implying they waited till they registered with the Institute. That is ridiculous. It has nothing to do with our course, and they just wasted time, assuming they could have studied earlier. And time is important. So we don't want you to do that. It really works to your disadvantage. The institutes are slow in registering, by the way. As long as you get your name in there, I can tell you Ontario's worse than out west in BC. Ontario is up to 12 weeks. It's just a hassle. And also, by the way, you don't really need our help in registering. I get questions from students, like I get not that many, but I get a few questions from students. I've already had a few. Can you help me with the registration? We can add very little value on that. I really cannot help you with the registration. It's basically following an application form, responding to questions about your personal situation. How am I going to really help you with that? So the answer is it really doesn't work. You know what I mean? So truthfully, it's really not where I need to spend my time or Michael needs to spend his time. It's kind of a waste of our time. It's not going to help you anyway. So the truth is you don't need our help in registering. Everybody seems to be able to do this. You just keep answering questions. It's a little bureaucratic and that's it. Now, which province should you register? Really, you should register in the province, I guess you're going to be living in and writing the CFE. If you register in Ontario, you should write the CFE in Ontario. If you change your mind after you register, it's a bit of a hassle. You'll have to tell them and they'll have to move your registration. Yes, you can do it. You could do it. But obviously, try to register in the province you think you're going to be writing in. Once you write your CFE, nobody cares where you wrote. It's irrelevant. It has no impact on anything, job, living, nothing. You can move wherever you like in Canada. Nobody cares, okay, once you wrote. Okay, and if you live out, if you're planning to live in Western Canada, you should register with the CPA Western School of Business. Most people from India will live in Ontario or out west, Vancouver, very popular, or Ontario, Toronto. Okay, now, of course, we've had people, don't get me wrong, we've had people from India living in Quebec, got people from Montreal, got people from Halifax. I'm not saying 100%, but I'm just saying if you look at numbers, that's where you'll find the biggest population. Okay, any questions? These are just some useful links. You can watch, you know, you can look at these about getting more information. That's from Ontario. And this is from the Western School of Business. Okay. These are just some deadlines, but again, the problem is we don't really have stuff for 2022 yet because they're very late this year and nothing is really up yet. So these are really deadlines for 2021. So depending on when you're listening to this, if it's live or not live, whatever, these deadlines really are for 2021. At least it gives you some idea, okay, of the deadlines. Okay, but I don't know. Probably it'll be similar for 2022. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, there's two registrations. There's a registering as a student with the Institute, and then there's registering several months later for the CFE. Okay, so for the CFE, It's after you're registered as a student. They'll give you about a month. Within that month, you'll register for the CFE separately. That comes later. Okay. Impact of COVID, as Michael mentioned, it's impacting it, definitely. The PRs are taking much longer. People are still getting them as far as we know, but the PRs are definitely taking longer. The whole process has been extended. Hopefully, you'll be able to enter Canada. At the moment, there would be a problem. The border has to open up. The official line in Canada, in Ontario, well, actually in Canada, is by September. Everything should be relatively back to normal, where people should have, the public will have the vaccine. So I'm not sure what to tell you because it's anybody's guess if that's going to happen by September, but truthfully, that is what they're saying. And there are differences in provinces, you know, but that's what they're saying. So again, who knows? Maybe it'll be earlier, but the rollout has been slow, and they just need to get a lot more supply. They claim by March, it's going to be ramped up significantly. I think there's two courses of action. For 2021, it's a no-brainer. You're going to choose September. If you have not started the process, it may be difficult to get the PR. You could still try. You could still try. You could still register with them. That's okay. We're in January with the Institute. But the immigration may be an issue. Studying is fine from now till September. That's good. Okay, that's not a problem. Now, look at the last point. People, you could try for September if you're interested in September 2021. If, as it gets closer, you could decide, okay, it's not going to work. I will move into 2022. If you do that, from our perspective, we just move you into the next year's program. There's no additional cost. We have a conversation with you. We see where you are in the study process and we make it work. If you've already handed in some exams, good, good. So you already got some exams marked. That's just going to help you for the following year. So it depends when you move, but we can deal with it. Okay, whenever you tell us, we'll deal with it and we'll kind of tell you, okay, what you should do. I may tell you don't attend the classes now. Some upcoming classes, you'll attend those next year. Focus on the videos. So we're very flexible. We can deal with this. We have people all the time moving from one batch to the next batch. The people, that is not so uncommon. This is the point I just made. Okay. The other possibility, I guess, action number 2 is just register for 2022. I mean, with us. Don't yet register, as I said before, with the Institute. Don't need to pay them extra fees. Just register with us. We'll get you started. And then you could write in either May or September of 2022, which by then, hopefully, okay, things will be normal and you'll be able to come in. That won't be a problem. Any questions on timing or COVID? Okay.
I
This is
have
all
one small question.
Yep.
Sorry. Not regarding the timing or the COVID, just something else. I just wanted to know whether you can throw in some statistics regarding the number of students that appear for a particular month for the CPA and the percentage of students that actually pass the CPA exam.
Okay, very good question. So the overall Canadian rate in the last 2 years has been approximately 74%. It varies every year a little. There was no set percentage. So it's been about 74. I don't know what the pass rate is for people from India or international students. Number one, I don't even know if they track it. And if they do track it, I can tell you they'll never, ever disclose it. So you can forget that. We think it's probably lower. Maybe not so significantly, but we think it probably is lower. We are very, when I say very happy, I mean, obviously we want 100% of the students to pass, but we thought that our pass rate in the previous couple of years has been pretty decent. Our pass rate has probably been 60% plus. for international students, for Indian students. The reason it's going to be lower is because, number one, for some Indian students, not for all, we find there's a big variation. For some Indian students, English is an issue. And I think just expressing their thoughts in English is more of an issue. And number two, case writing, because it is a skill you have to learn. So when I say that we're kind of happy, the reason we're happy is because, you know, students are coming from a totally different educational system, never having written a case in their life, and getting over 60% compared to Canadian students, which is really in the ballpark of Canadian students. That's pretty good. So I will tell you that we have not changed the program at all from the last year, the last actually couple of years. If we thought, you know, if we saw there was need to, we change it, but we're happy with it. The biggest determinant, I will tell you very honestly, the biggest determinant in that pass rate is you and how many cases you're writing and how many hours you're putting in. That is the biggest determinant. I'm not going to tell you there's nobody that fails, okay, who puts in all the hours and writes all the cases. Of course, there are some. But to be honest, many of the people that are unsuccessful, we speak to them afterwards. A lot of them will call us and they'll ask us about what they're going to do the following year. They're unsuccessful. I start asking some detailed questions, hopefully not insulting questions, like, you know, we gave you 4 exams in April. How many did you write and hand in? Often, I will hear answers like, well, I handed in a couple. I was really busy that month, so I didn't really hand in all 4. This is not a good process to take shortcuts. It's not a good process. I'm not saying everybody, but definitely a portion of those students who are unsuccessful. I can tell you, I can tell you factually. Like, I speak to students afterwards, and sometimes it's crazy. You know, oh, I didn't really start studying until June. I didn't start studying until July. I was super busy. All the cases, all the videos. No, I didn't really watch anything. I only really got into it like in June. And they're unsuccessful. Look, I mean, what can I tell you? You know, we can do what we can do, but at the end of the day, if the person's going to start in June, okay, literally from scratch, yes, that is going to be a problem for most people writing in September. They may even register with us from February, March. That's the crazy part. But, you know, how do I know if they're watching the videos? That's not something I really know. I'm not going to call up and yell at them if they don't hand in a case. I don't think they'd appreciate that. They had their reasons. So all I can tell you is, yeah, so that's the story with the pass rate. Obviously, compared to India, it is way better. It is, as I'm sure you guys know.
Yeah,
I don't have to tell you. Sorry?
Yeah, that's what my main concern was, because Indian CA exams are they have a pretty bad pass percentage, so that's
No,
the reason why.
no, this is really, I mean, quite frankly, like, I'll tell you something crazy, okay? I just told you it's somewhere around, like, the Indian students in our course, people follow up with us. That's how we get the statistic, okay? It's not, by the way, 100%, because not everybody calls us. But the truth is, a lot of people do call us after the fact, and they tell us if they passed or failed. So I'm not basing it on 3 people. I think somebody's mic needs to be muted. But I will tell you something interesting. You know, I just told you over 60%. Not that you're going to care about this, but when Michael and myself wrote this exam many, many years ago, guess what the average pass rate, guess what the national pass rate was? About 50%. It's actually come up over the years to the point that people from India are passing this exam now at a higher percentage on average than me and Michael had when we actually wrote the exam. Across the country, that's where it was. Some years was even below 50%. For many years, it was at around 50%, and then it started to creep up. So like I say, you know, we are pretty happy. I'm not touching the course. The course is good. It's extensive. We feel it's doing the job. I'm not going to play with something that works. You just have to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, people, this is our contact information, emails, WhatsApp. Okay, many people get in touch with us on WhatsApp. That's fine. Emails, like I say, we're always answering questions from students. That's our website. So, you know, one of the things I think we do, which we try our best, and the fact that there's two of us helps, we give a lot of support. We answer all the questions. Okay, we are very available from that perspective. And I think that that's, I think people really do appreciate that. And it's, you know, I think it really does work. Obviously, we're not in the same country, but the truth is, I think we adjust pretty well for that. Okay, people, any questions? I haven't even looked at timing. I'm not even sure what the timing is, but any questions?
Sir, so
Yeah.
the best course of action seems like that we should prepare for the May 2022 exam. Like I have applied for my express entry to the country. I have lodged my PR application. So most probably it will go through by September or October this year. So the best course of action would be May 22 for me.
If you really think you're not going to get it till September, October, you're probably right. You're probably, you know what I mean? You're probably right. Again, from our course, it doesn't make so much of a difference, but the earlier you register, the sooner I'll get you started. That's the truth. But yes, I mean, you know, look, you could chance it for September. You could chance it for September and start studying for September. It's not going to involve any additional cost, and I would get you started. And like I say, nothing you'd be doing would be wasting time. Believe me, you won't be wasting time. You'd be watching those videos. You got to watch them anyway. So from that perspective, I don't care. But, you know, you could do that. If you really think you're not going to get it, if that's what you're being told, yeah, then it might make sense. Just do May of 2022. But truthfully, we could live either way, and it would be perfectly fine. It's not going to make that much, like I say, it's not really a money consideration, by the way. All the, you know, especially not, you know, again, a lot of people are doing installments anyway. It's not going to make that much of a difference, okay, from a money perspective. Like, it really won't.
If I could just interject, what Ira is saying is that it won't make any difference from the amount that you pay pass. There it won't change. The only drawback of aiming for September of 2021 and then changing your mind is that you would have to join the Ontario Institute earlier. So you'd end up paying higher fees to the Ontario Institute. So if you really think that you're not, if there's a good chance you won't make it in time to write in 021, the only advantage of aiming for 022 is that you would not join the Ontario Institute yet. You join PASS and you'd start studying with us, but you'd wait until the second half of the year to join the Institute, and that way you'll pay us a smaller fee.
Yeah.
So that would be the only difference.
So that's probably a $300 somewhere around.
Right, but $300 is $300, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure that's, you know, $300. So at the end of the day, I mean, that would be your only difference. Other than that, it would be the same. But you know, but if that's what if they've already told you that it's unlikely you're going to make it in before September, you may want to consider that. You know, I find that with governments, usually they don't usually, if anything, things take longer, not shorter than they tell you. That's been my experience, at least.
Actually, there is a lockdown right now in Canada. So whenever it happens, I have seen the trend from last year. Like they would only give the ITS for PNP or the Canadian experience class. So during the month of January, they had 4 rounds of applications. 2 were for PNP and 2 were for CEC. So if the lockdown continues or the conditions worsen over there, so they would continue giving ITS to CEC. So there's a high probability I might not get my ITA before July or August. And after receiving my ITA, so it would take about 2 to 3 more months to get a COPR.
Yeah, so you might want to go for May of 2022.
Yeah, another thing, I just want to add something. Now, you know, for Indian students, you know, what is the most important thing that we need to bear in mind? And just like Michael and Ira said, the case writing is a different aspect. You know, it's a different format that they have for Canada. A lot of emphasis on case writing, and we don't do that in India. We don't do that in the US CPA. So there's a lot of emphasis on case writing. And even if, you know, I mean, I know we got the COVID, we got the pandemics, and you've applied, it could, you know, get delayed by a couple of months. But while that is happening, you know, by joining early, you're getting more familiar with the case writing and you're getting more practice also. So that would help you in, being better prepared, well, for whenever you write the exam. So that's my view, that Indian students need a little more uh, emphasis on case writing, and the more practice that they do, the better it is. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Here's a couple of other links for YouTube videos if you want to watch these, that will just give you a little more information on immigrating to Canada and life in Canada. Okay. Any questions? Other questions? Everyone okay?
There's a chat here.
Oh, yeah, let me see that. Right.
Yeah.
I want to write CFA, you mean CFE, but honestly, after reading so much on website or watching too much videos, I'm still not clear. So I guess, yeah, so Lakshmi, you know what, when you say you want to speak to someone, that's not a problem. Why don't you send an email? Send me an email on the past website, or you see my email from this presentation or whatever on the past website. Send me an email, and what I could do is I can put you into contact with one or two Indian students who have taken the course. If you really want more detail on exactly what they took in the course and stuff like that, not a problem. But just send me an email, okay, and I'll put you into contact with someone.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
So no, anybody who's got any questions, even after the seminar, you can write directly to Michael, to Ira, you can write to Orbit Institutes, and whatever questions you have, we'll make sure that we provide you all the most accurate information, and anything that will help you in your understanding. So the procedure would be that, you can contact, to start your journey, you can contact Michael, Ira, or Orbit Institutes, and we can get the ball rolling, and take that first step. Um, it's a it's a golden opportunity, to have this understanding between two countries for reciprocal exchange of qualifications, just by writing exams over 3 days. 1 hour your business skills, and the final CFE. You can become Canadian CPAs and CPAs, and you can migrate to Canada. I mean, so a lot of opportunities for you, for your family, and I don't think, and it's a very small investment for opening doors abroad. So you should look at it very seriously and make up your mind, and do let us know how we can help you, execute your plans. Yeah. So any more questions to me, Michael, Ira, anybody? I guess that's it, Michael, then, Ira.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Great. Okay, well,
Thank
thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much. It was really a pleasure, and we hope you found this useful. And we
All
look
right,
forward to
everybody. Okay, thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.